Uh, hey guys, let's build a sleeper. Now this was the XPS case that we used for the Optiplexitron, but today we're gonna tear that down and turn it into an AM5 sleeper with my old 7700X that I used to daily drive. Now, as we all know, that 7700X tends to run pretty hot, so I definitely want to water cool it, and we're gonna have to modify this case to do so. Now I'm actually gonna put the AIO on the front rather than the top because the top has no ventilation at all, whereas the front, you can see on the bottom, actually has a little grate, and there is some space in between here for some air to flow. And we're definitely gonna need that because I'm gonna try my best to do this as a push-pull configuration. As far as the rest of the build, it's gonna be this Gigabyte B650M Gaming Plus Wi-Fi that I actually got open box at Micro Center for only 69 bucks. 69. And the RAM is going to be 32 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance 6000 megahertz that we're going to borrow from my test bench. But obviously, like I said, we're going to have to do some modifications on this case to actually get this cooler in here, since the entire front of this is nothing but hard drive bays and the disk drive. So let's go ahead and start with that. So I got the front all stripped down here, and to get out where the disk drive and all the hard drive bays and everything were. As you can see, it's all riveted in there, and I have marked the ones I need to do here, but we're gonna try and see if, if I just pop those rivets out, if they come out. This part right here, unfortunately, is still attached, so I am going to have to, as you see, cut it, like right there, because I don't want to separate all of this here. I want to leave that intact. So everything's all out. Now I just gotta vacuum up all this dusty dust, and then we can actually get started on this thing. All right, and there we go. She's mounted in. And if you see, to give this poor little CPU as much of a fighting chance as I could, if you could see in there, we actually put 2 more fans in front for a push-pull. There was some things in the way of the bottom one here that I had to bend out of the way. So I am slightly worried that that one might still hit something, but I really don't think it's going to. I think we're going to be just fine. I really don't know how I'm going to go about hiding that, but whatever. Let's get on with the actual rest of the build. I know some of you are going to say, you have to put a 240 AIO on top. You can't put it up on front, or else the rad won't be the highest point. Yes it will, because in this case, the power supply goes up here, and the motherboard goes all the way down here. So our block's going to be like right about here. See, the board I actually got all tested last night and everything's good to go. BIOS is updated, so I'm not gonna have any issues there. Knock on wood. Let's go ahead and change the cooler bracket, and then we'll be good to just pop the thing in there. Speaking of cool, it'd be really cool if you hit that subscribe button right now. That'd be really cool. In all seriousness though, guys, please do subscribe. It really does help the channel a lot. Now, I've installed so many of these Thermalright AIO coolers, and the thing I love about them is that every bracket is the same. Thermalright is nothing if not consistent, and that's why I love them. But they are also cheap too, and that's another reason why I love them. And Thermalright to me is just one of those really, really awesome companies that I love because they just prove that you don't need to cost an arm and a leg to have good cooling performance. They're just solid, consistent. I love Thermalright. And the coolers are pretty cool looking too. Fans, some of the fans feel pretty cheap, but they're not terrible. They're definitely not the worst fans. I mean, this 3-pack of fans was $12.99, so it's hard to complain about that. And the LEDs on them are just as good as any. I mean, those right there are all Thermalright. Now, the board that was in here before did seem to be standard micro ATX, so we shouldn't have any issues here, but Looks like we're gonna be just fine. Yeah. Good, lines up normally. Alright, now we can paste it and put the cooler on. Speaking of cool, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm just kidding. And we're not going to use Thermal Grizzly today. We're going to go for the next best thing, which to me is Noctua NTH2. And that ought to be more than enough. Okay, so the only way I'm going to be able to mount this thing is going to be like this. Otherwise, it's going to be in the way of our graphics card. So here we go. There we go. Now let's get them wired all up before we put the power supply in. Ta-da! And that's about as good as it's gonna get. And we can cover this down with the power supply. And speaking of which, this fan, unfortunately, we're gonna have some uncontrollable rainbow action going on here because I don't know what I did with the 80mm fan that was already in this case. And I don't have any other 80mm other than this one. And this is not addressable. As soon as you plug in the DC connector, it's just gonna rainbow. So, yeah, party time, excellent. All right, so let's get the power supply in here, and then we can break out the graphics card that's gonna sweat to death in here. There we go. Now all that's left is just to pop in the GPU and we'll be ready to go back to sleep. I mean, play some games on this thing. And I think that's about as much work into the cable management as I really care to put into it. And I was really hoping that our stock order of the ARC V580s was going to be here by the time I get to this video, because I really wanted to use it in this build, but alas, they are not. So we're going to use the next best thing, which is actually even more powerful anyways. And since it's a tight squeeze, I know it should fit perfectly. And it is my 4070 Super Founders Edition. Here we go. Can I get her in? There we go. That's actually not a bad fit at all. We got plenty of room for the cable. And the bracket won't fit back on because these were meant to work with a specific card. And guess what? It ain't this one. So we're just gonna wedge it up with the screw. And a zip tie, because this is my baby, and I don't want to hurt my baby. There we go. And now we can just plug you in. Stuff the cable down here. And there we go. Voila! Ready to boot. Alright, let's play some Wukong. Okay, thank you. Oh, shaders. Oh, the shaders. So our CPU temp is clearly pretty high under heavy load, compiling all these shaders here, but at least it's not throttling. And that's a super heavy load, 86, 91%. Whew. I've been stuck on this guy. He's been kicking my butt. This guy sucks.
Take this! Watch me, fool! Right!
Oh, I hate him so much. I'm actually shocked with these temperatures, to be honest. Flame.
Monkey brain to be a proper snake.
I really hate this guy. You get the point. She games and she games hard. But can she survive Cinebench with OBS and hardware monitor going? Let's see. Why, yes. Yes, it can. Alright guys, and that's going to be it for this one, because on the bright side, we are getting a lot more customer orders lately, but obviously that leaves me with less time for these videos, so I'm pretty darn happy with the way this thing turned out. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about it, and what you might want to see me build next. Until then, be easy, and game on.